So we are in the salt flats of Utah. This is the overflow area of Salt Lake. I'm sure you've heard of it. It's summer over there, and when it's full water, it overflows into these fields, especially over there. And you can see it looks like it's covered in snow, and it's a very large flat area. They use this territory lots of times to install like land speed records. A lot of them have been recorded on these flats because it's a large flat territory. And you can see there are cars and people taking pictures. Unfortunately, we cannot stop and go on that side because it is not allowed to cross the interstate. But maybe another time. And because the water is very salty, and then it evaporates and leaves a lot of salt residue, that like when you walk on these surfaces, here it's not too much, but over there it's like a thick crust of salt, and it pricks your feet like snow. It is a very beautiful point of attraction, and also this is the most relaxing, easiest road to drive on in the whole country. It's just straight like an arrow, and flat, doesn't have turns, doesn't have any ups and downs. It's just straightforward for about 40-50 miles. You can just lock your steering wheel and go and take a nap. So let's try to make a POV out of it, and because it might become boring, there are not many fluctuations, let me try and entertain you by telling you some story. I've been thinking for a while now to try and diversify my videos by telling some trucking stories. How about we start with how I became a truck driver? I've never actually thought I would. I was a very bad driver, even like a car driver. When I got my first driver's license back in Moldova, I knew I was a very bad driver. I was afraid to sit behind the wheel, and I didn't even have a car. Like sometimes somebody would let me drive their car, but I always proved not very skilled. So I never hoped to become even a good car driver, not alone truck driver. And then life brought me to the United States, and here you have to learn to drive a car. There's no way around it, and I did to some degree. I became a better car driver, but still every time I would stop at a truck stop or somewhere and see trucks, I was always fascinated about the size and mass of these vehicles. I was always wondering how it would feel to sit behind the wheel of a truck. Like, I was thinking you'd probably see all the other cars like ants, and you feel like a giant on the road. And I was always wondering how does it feel to control such a big machine, because even when driving a small car, you're don't always feel in full control of that little piece of equipment. But when driving with this huge machinery and with the trailer and with the load, it feels so big and overwhelming. And I was just thinking, like, questioning, but never even thought that I could probably do it myself. I was in Wisconsin. I had 2 jobs. I was working as a server and as a cashier at the gas station, and wasn't making too much money, but alright for a living. And then the trucking boom hit. Like it happened in 2012, beginning of 2012, and a lot of people started going to learn to become a truck driver. And I mean a lot of people, maybe not at the scale of like whole population, but immigrants. And because I was an immigrant, I was mostly in contact with other immigrants, and I could see that process happening more clearly. Like I had 10 friends in Wisconsin, and in the stretch of like 5 months, 8 out of 10 left, moved to Chicago to get their commercial driver's license and start driving truck. And at some point there was only me and another friend left in Wisconsin. It felt kind of boring, and also I kind of felt abandoned because I almost didn't have any friends left. Everybody was in Chicago. So one day this friend of mine came to me and said, well, why don't we try and go to Chicago too and try to get a driver's license and start driving truck. And I was kind of scared because I really didn't think I could do that, but I was mostly motivated by the fact that everybody left, and I thought if this guy leaves too, I'll just be alone in that small city in Wisconsin, and that'll be very sad. So I said, okay, fine, let's do it. But it was like a future, like, yeah, sometimes in the future. But then next day he came to me and said, okay, I found an apartment, I found a school, we move in 2 weeks time. I was like, what? So soon? So quickly? He's like, yeah, what is there to wait for? So I gave them advance notice at my both jobs. They usually require you to tell them 2 weeks ahead that you're leaving, and I did. And in 2 weeks, we just loaded our stuff in a truck and left for Chicago. I had no idea what was going to happen. I didn't know if I could handle it. I didn't know if I could even drive a truck, because as I said, I wasn't very convinced that my skills were enough. But we had a nice apartment very close to downtown, and the first week was very fun. We would go to downtown Chicago almost every day and walk and see places. It was very fun. But then I had to deal with the reality. I didn't have too much money saved, and I needed to get some money for the school. The truck driving school courses cost $3,000 at that time. and then I needed money for rent. The courses were supposed to take 1 month, so I've needed money for 2 months rent, like the month that I was going to school, and then another month until I got my first paycheck. So in my calculation I needed like $5,000, and well, I had like some pocket money saved, but not enough even for a month of rent in Chicago. So I went to a bank. Somebody told me I could do that. I didn't have any credit history to take a loan, but I had a car, an old BMW, like a 1995 BMW, and I went to the bank and asked them to give me a loan against the value of the car. It's called a collateral loan. So you give them the title of the car, and they'll loan you some money, but then if you don't pay them back, they take your car. There are a lot of companies that do that now. They're called title loan companies, but these are fraud. Like, they'll give you a loan with huge interest. The bank gave me actually a nice loan. It was only 5% interest or something like that, and they gave me $5,000. That's how much they calculated that car was worth, and I thought it was enough for me to get through the school, get my first paycheck, and just pay them back. So I signed up for the school, started going to school, had fun in the free time, but the timing wasn't very good. We arrived in Chicago in mid-December of 2012, I think, and I just started school, and then Christmas came, and then New Year came, and then once the school started again, their truck broke down. They only had one truck for driving practice, and it broke. It took them about a month to fix it, and then they had some other problems. One instructor, like, you couldn't drive alone, you had to have somebody with you, and the guy got sick, and then the school was delayed again for a couple of weeks. So instead of 1 month, my courses took more than 3 months. About the middle of the second month, I realized I'm not going to have money for the next month's rent, so I had to go and find another job to make some more money, and also I had to start paying the bank back for the loan. So I found a job at a pizzeria. I was just giving away flyers in the street. It was from 8 to 12, and they were paying like $8 an hour or something like that, so it wasn't much. And then because I had some experience as a server, I found a job at a restaurant as a server, but they only had an opening like night shift, so it was a little crazy. I would wake up in the morning and go and work at the pizzeria for 6 hours, then from there go to school, do my driving training for like 2-3 hours, then come home and get like 6-7 hours of sleep, and wake up at like 11 p.m, have some food, and go to work. My shift would start at midnight, and from midnight to 7 a.m. I would work at the restaurant, and then I had to run real quick to the pizzeria to be at my second job at 8. So during this time period, my biggest hobby was getting sleep. Any time I had available, I would just get some extra sleep. And somehow I managed to pull through with the payments for the loan and payments for the apartment. I was always on the edge, like always making enough money for the rent on the very last day, or making enough money to pay my loan on the very last day. Oftentimes I wouldn't make it in the last day, so I would have a lot of late payments, which is very bad. Like if you ever deal with the American credit system, late payments are very bad for your credit score. My credit score was already very bad, so I've just buried it in the ground. When I came out of it, at the end, when I paid off my loan, I had a credit score of like 400, I think. I think that's the lowest you can have. So that actually held me back afterwards for a very long time, when I've already started growing and I wanted to buy my own truck, my own trailer, a better car. And nobody would have wanted to give me a loan for it, which kind of held me back a little bit. But anyway, it also was very fun. It was a fun time. I lived with this other guy that motivated me to come to Chicago, and he had a lot of friends, and every time I would show up home, there would be a party going on. I wasn't really taking part of it because I was always tired, but I still felt like I was part of something. And unfortunately for the other guy, he because of these parties, once we moved to Chicago, he got pulled over by the police, and he was drunk, so he got his driver's license suspended for half a year, so he couldn't go to school. During this time, at first he found a job, and he was paying his share of the rent and stuff, but then one day he got into a fight and he broke a leg, so he couldn't go to work. He was just staying home and having parties all the time, and I would have to pay the rent for like both of us, and he said he would pay me back, but it's been 8 years since then. He still hasn't. But anyway, so yeah, at some point the guy got pulled over again, and again he was drunk, and he had his driver's license already suspended, so he's got his driver's license totally revoked. That means you can't get it back for quite a while. Could be up to several years. So he had to go back to Wisconsin and just take a job somewhere that didn't require him to drive. But in the end, he just gave it all up, the American dream, and returned back to Russia. He was from Russia. By that time, I already had my driver's license, and I left my jobs at the restaurant and pizzeria, and found a job at a company where a couple of my other friends were working. They were running flatbeds. I had no idea what a flatbed is. I was kind of hoping to get a reefer or a dry van, but they told me it's not too hard, and they took me for training. They gave me another guy to train me. The guy who was training me had himself only 2 weeks of experience. I know what these people were thinking. So he didn't teach me much. He didn't know much himself. But from what he managed to tell me and to show me, I got a little bit of idea how it works. I got 2 weeks of training, which I think is not enough, but that's how much they required at the time. Now most companies require you to have at least 1 month of training. And they gave me a truck. It was the oldest truck in the fleet. The whole fleet at that time was like 4 trucks. And they had 2 Volvos, like old ones, but they were considered the best because Volvo is most comfortable. And then they had an old Freightliner, and they had a very old International, and they gave me that one. It was so rough that I was scared every time when I was driving it. Like right now, when driving this Volvo, you feel isolated from the outside. It has a very nice noise isolation and a very nice overall comfort. That one didn't have any noise isolation. Like, so I understand, like, if I would open my window, the noise level wouldn't change at all. Like, it was just as noisy with the windows open or closed. And it just gave me the feeling that I wasn't protected, that I was driving while being outside of the truck. And it was also very hard. Like, again, these Volvos are very soft. They have very soft power steering and very soft pedals. And the even the manual ones, the gear shifters are also very comfortable. That one is very rough, like an old Russian truck, and I really didn't feel comfortable in it. But I had to get used to it. In the beginning, I would get short runs to North Dakota and Minnesota and stuff like that. And while I'm saying I think the training wasn't enough, because in my first 2 months of work, I've done so many mistakes, and every mistake costs you money. Like you run over something and you blow a tire, you gotta pay for it. You hit a pole or something and you break the trailer, you gotta pay for the repair. And I've done a lot of it. Like, in the first 2 months, I almost didn't make any money. Like, I was making enough for my rent and for food and maybe for something else, but about half of what I was making, I was paying back for the damage I was doing. Like, some examples, one day I parked at the company and they had some short poles in the ground, like marking some kind of zone, and I pulled up to those poles very close and went in to check in for the load. And when I came back, I forgot about them, and they were so close I couldn't see them anymore because of the hood, and I just started driving. And I've hit those poles with the side of the truck, scratched a fender, broke a light. It cost me about $1,500 to repair. Then another day I was getting loaded at the company and backing up into a dock, and folded the truck and trailer too much, so the side of the trailer hit the side of the wall of the entrance, and I bent a little bit the wall and I broke the side of the trailer. The company had to pay for the damage that I've done to the company, and I had to pay for the welding of that trailer. Again, it was about $1,000 each. Then one one day I was getting loaded with some steel, and I had to get on the scale, but it didn't calculate my turn correctly. So the trailer, instead of running on the scale, it ran on the side of the scale, and they had some railings. I ran on that railing and blew a tire and bent the rim. It cost me like $1,200. So I had all of that. In the beginning, it was very disappointing because I was really hoping to start making money. I was hearing people, having big salaries and stuff. But that's how I started. And I worked at that company for 3 years until I bought my own truck. And then I opened my own company, and now I'm working with my company up to this time. I hope you like the story. If you have any questions, or if there are any other stories that you'd like to hear, you can let me know, and I'll be glad to tell them to you.